When you find a game you're passionate about, it's easy to make videos, but I could sit here all day and talk about what I want Hytale to be, the ideas I have in my head. But I'm actually more interested in what you, the rest of the Hytale community, have to say about the game. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Codiak and welcome to the Game Guru's YouTube channel. I've been playing MMOs for a long time and currently we're in a little bit of a drought. Games like World of Warcraft, Guild Wars, and Star Wars The Old Republic have come and gone, and while some still operate, they're a shadow of their former self. Now fast forward to the Hytale announcement trailer, and the hype train has begun to roll. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know what you guys wanted Hytale to be. So I posted a pretty simple survey on the Hytale subreddit and tweeted it out, and you guys came out of the woodwork. Thanks to Noxy, Budacat, and dozens of other players, our survey got over 300 responses, and while a lot of those answers were short, sweet, and to the point, there were a lot of really specific requests from players across the spectrum, from endless dungeons to ultra-hard endgame bosses. In this video, we're going to look at adventure mode, one of the pillars of the Hytale game. And as someone that loves MMORPGs, I really wanted to start with the content that was squarely in my wheelhouse. Because there were so many responses, it's impossible to get to every single idea in one video, but I'm going to do my best to combine answers and similar ideas to provide everyone with a path forward when thinking about what adventure mode could be. So let's get to it. Something I saw over and over again in the responses was the desire for a living world. It's something that MMO developers have tried to make happen countless times, but none have ever truly succeeded in doing it perfectly. Online games just can't be shut off, time just can't stop, so it's much harder to create that sense of a living city. Cyberpunk 2077, an upcoming game by CD Projekt Red, the developers of the Witcher series, are trying to tackle this challenge right now in their upcoming game. But that's a single player experience where time can stop and start whenever necessary. Now that doesn't mean it's impossible. In fact, a lot of great ideas actually came up in the survey. For instance, traveling merchants can come to various cities and points of interest. They can sell things that will actually make a difference in the game. Now, too often we think of vendors as just a place to sell our junk because they don't have anything of value to add to our gameplay. But what if a specific vendor was on a schedule, came around every so often, and brought artifacts from a far-off biome or even a different world? Part of that living world means having characters we want to invest in, and I saw a few requests for a fully realized quest system, extensive voice acting, and loads of side missions. If there's one thing I was picking up on, it was that people wanted to never run out of things to do. When they go exploring, they want to find strategic points that actually enhance the experience, like villages or ruins that are filled with life, not just a few monsters or treasure chests. A lot of people ask for the world to have a backstory, and although the world gen system could make this really challenging, I think that sort of structure would give players a sense of belonging. Walking into a main city, if they were to exist, or a small village, wouldn't feel trivial anymore because they'd have names, the people would have backstories. But this does require a ton of work. Hytale isn't exactly coined as an MMORPG, at least not yet, so the possibility is there. Another thing I really liked about everyone's responses were how different they were. I'd read one response that wanted to dungeon dive all day killing tough bosses, and then the very next response would be about chopping down trees and making that an enjoyable experience. One thing I saw a lot about was pets and companions. Now we already know that we can play co-op with up to 4 people, but what I really noticed was the desire to have pets act as companions while adventuring, or even mercenaries or NPCs that could join your party and go exploring with you. I think a combination of Star Wars The Old Republic, where you had dozens of unique companions that added both humor and depth to your play experience, as well as a bit of Torchlight, where your pet could hold on to a limited number of items and even go back into town to sell your junk. I've always thought that system was a lot cooler than portaling back to my shack and dropping things off into a chest. Now another cool idea was a size classification system for the animals. Small pets could travel on your back or on your shoulder, while larger pets could be used as mounts or pack animals. Players want both an engaging and unique experience with each pet, but also a sense of accomplishment for collecting a variety of pets. People want to be able to tame everything: birds, fish, dogs, hyenas. I even saw some requests for a manatee, and I think that's pretty great, to be honest. Companions in real life are our best friends, so why shouldn't they play that role in the virtual world as well? Now this next one really got me thinking how far we've come in video games. It was a simple response to the survey. It said, "I really want sandstorms in deserts." And that got me thinking about how much dynamic weather is a norm in most video games we play nowadays, from small indie titles to AAA blockbusters. Dynamic weather would make the Hytale universe come to life, and although a lot of our time would be spent underground, foraging on the surface or exploring the far reaches of a biome would only be elevated by adding dynamic weather. You could implement things like acid rain from the RimWorld series that causes your player to become sick over time, or just have destructive forces like floods or blizzards that can completely change the landscape of an area. I also think dynamic weather events could constantly change up the game. Imagine a seemingly quiet part of the world suddenly being struck by an earthquake that splits the area wide open, revealing a new area to explore, rich with resources or runes. Things like that could keep the world alive and constantly provide a changing landscape for players to explore. So we have to be real. We've been conditioned at this point. When we think about MMOs or RPGs, we think of character classes like warriors, rogues, and mages. Games like Final Fantasy Online have done a good job keeping that system fresh, but at the end of the day, when it's not there, we miss it, and when it is there, we always want more. I saw a ton of responses that called for wizards and magic, which makes a lot of sense. There's a reason it's been a video game trope for so long, but I also saw some really cool requests as well. One response mentioned a bard that could set up in popular areas and perform music, giving people a buff and providing them with a little entertainment. The system works really well in MapleStory 2, and while sometimes annoying, did have its audience. I also saw a really big demand for engaging combat, not just hack and slash mechanics, but some real thought put into fighting enemies, whether it be with a sword, bow, staff, or something else entirely. That call extended into magic as well, with multiple respondents calling for a new system of magic, a new way of thinking about spells and how they work in an online setting. While a large chunk of players wanted class-specific characters, there were also those that wanted those classes to be boundaryless, allowing for changes over the course of an adventure. I'll point to Path of Exiles, which has an expansive talent system that really allows you to shape the way you play, but most players will tell you that you really need to commit to a build early on in the game so that you don't end up trapped somewhere down the line. Now, a more open-ended system where you could change up your playstyle may fit the Hytale world better. Exploring a system like the one in Rift may be a better solution where you pick a primary class, but within that class are about a dozen subclasses that all play completely different. The game isn't overly complicated, but each class feels special with a moveset unique to that calling. Now, with each class, I also saw some requests for class-specific weapons that evolve as you get stronger and explore more. And this system of leveling up one specific weapon was recently implemented in the World of Warcraft Legion expansion, but abandoned in the most recent Battle for Azeroth expansion. And while I did enjoy the constantly improving weapon system, the magic of getting an incredible weapon after killing a tough boss just wasn't there. Looking at some of the artwork for the weapons in the game already, it's clear that the team is taking this seriously and really wants to create items that players want to spend hours trying to obtain. Now, this is probably one of the biggest question marks and one that I'm sure we'll learn a lot about in the coming weeks and months. But for now, we can only really speculate about what we'll see when the time finally comes. Finally, we'll end with some ideas for the endgame. As someone that's a huge fan of MMOs, I know just how important the endgame content is to keeping the world alive. One request I saw over and over again was the addition of boss fights, not just hack and slash monsters, but actual bosses that require you to team up, have a plan, and take them down. With such an interesting world to explore and endless possibilities for ruins and dungeons, I have no doubt that the team is already hard at work on creating challenges for us. But I hope that they take the need for serious encounters, well, seriously. Bosses should be challenging both physically and mentally, and should require a strategy. Fighting a singular enemy in a circular room will get boring and quickly suck the life out of any combat-driven endgame experience. It may also be time to just look at endgame in a whole new light. I saw countless players asking for exploration to be the pinnacle of the endgame experience. Players didn't necessarily want their combat skills to define the endgame experience, but instead their personal progression. Perhaps players have to complete a series of long-term goals to be able to travel outside of a given zone and reach an exclusive area. We already know the deep ocean is going to be an area that's primarily for the adventurous players, but it can set the stage for so many more unique and challenging biomes that act as a reward for all that hard work players put into developing their exploration skills. And last but not least, there is a serious desire for crafting and life skills to play an integral part in the progression of your character. I think for too long, games have treated professions as an additional thing that adds another layer to the game, but instead they need to realize that some players live and breathe this stuff. Just look at games like Stardew Valley and My Time at Portia, two games rooted in creation and invention. There has been an effort to make this a priority and perhaps even interweave the crafters, explorers, and adventurers all together, making them essential to each other. Crafters can put out work orders for certain items that only explorers can obtain because of their ability to go beyond a given zone, while adventurers can crawl through dungeons collecting plans or blueprints that crafters need to make better weapons. Keep the threads tied together, making players rely on each other for that success, and you could create a more complete world. So again, guys, I wanted to thank you for taking part in our survey. As I make this video, I'm still watching the responses come in, and that really just solidifies how much players want a new, immersive, massive open world experience. Now, this is just part 1 of our survey results series, and I'm going to be diving into the other categories as soon as I can put those together, and we may even come back to the adventure mode ideas. But don't stop sharing your thoughts with us. Take the survey for yourself, or just leave us a comment in the section below and let us know what you want from adventure mode in Hytale. You can also join the Game Gurus on Discord. I'll leave that link below. Feel free to hop on, hang out with me or anyone from our community that's excited about Hytale. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at the Game Gurus, thanks for watching and play on.